Every Y.Chroma garment comes with a gold standard CO2 credit that offsets 35 kilograms of CO2. This is what carbon looks like, about a kilogram of it, 2.5 pounds. Around a quarter of CO2's weight is this actual stuff. It's an interesting way to visualize those numbers. We calculate how much CO2 Y.Chroma causes to be put into the atmosphere, and then we take the steps to take that CO2 back out. Offsetting the CO2 a business like mine makes is totally doable, by the way. Doesn't break the bank, and the offset programs you invest in, these are gold standard, audited programs, are actually incredible. They're a pleasure to support. More on that in a minute. This, by the way, isn't my idea. Of course, any time you see any company, Apple, Microsoft, anybody like that, talking about carbon neutrality, they did it through carbon offset credits. So it's a totally accepted thing in the big corporate world. So how much CO2 do we produce? Good question. According to the organization 8 Billion Trees, a cotton t-shirt will put about 8.5 kilos of CO2 into the atmosphere through all stages of its production, making the fabric, making the textile, cut and sew, all the transport, everything. By the time it gets to you, 8.5 kilos, so about 20 pounds. By the way, I think that's actually very conservative, because that's probably a t-shirt that is not made in Europe, but that's okay. Let's use a conservative estimate. The nice people at Climate Science break down where that number comes from across the production cycle of the shirt. Now, by the way, I want to offset the whole 8.5 kilograms, but the truth is many of the people in our supply chain here in Europe are already offsetting, so we're probably doubling up. That's okay. Let's assume I need to offset the whole thing. What's cool about the t-shirt equation is that we know exactly how many resources it takes to make one of our spectacular shirts, so we can scale those hours up to more complex garments to understand their CO2 profile. That's why the research was so important. It's not perfect, but it's pretty solid, and we always round up. Then we take into account shipping. UPS says that their CO2 impact per shipment delivered is about 2.6 kilograms. By the way, hats off to them for reporting that. That's really important. Until someone invents teleporters, we all ship everything everywhere. So we got to pull that carbon back out. Amazon alone ships over 7 billion packages a year, right? So it's part of the modern economy, but that means we got to pull that carbon back out. Although each one of our shipments to you typically has about 3 pieces in it, we go ahead and round up to a full 2 kilogram load for every piece, because there's some local ground transport also happening on our end. We need to take that into account. So we'll be generous and round way up. In advance of the year, we use this method, and we make an estimate of the number of pieces we will make and ship, and then I buy, in advance, carbon credits sufficient to offset that. This year I bought carbon offset credits of over 100 metric tons. That sounds like a lot, but those kilograms can add up. And again, if we overshoot, that's fine. Happy to pull some extra CO2 out of the atmosphere. How do we get the credits? There are a variety of places you can go to buy these. Fortune 500 companies, I think, buy on carbon credit exchanges like these, but smaller businesses like Y.Chroma go through an NGO. I buy through an organization called Gold Standard. Here they are, goldstandard.org. Gold Standard was established in 2003 by the World Wildlife Fund and other international NGOs to verify and ensure the integrity of these carbon offset programs. I personally usually don't go in for passive projects where you get a carbon credit because someone agrees not to cut down a forest. Those are great, but I want active projects. My favorites are things like this. Our money here goes to provide high-efficiency cook stoves to this community in rural Zambia. Program in total has provided over 30,000 stoves. That is a big number. This community previously burned wood for food cooking in inefficient cook fires. That requires deforestation. The cook stoves stop that deforestation or greatly reduce it. The stoves save 4.6 metric tons of wood per household per year. Think about that. It's an eye-popping number. Back of the envelope, that would fill the entire studio I'm sitting in, top to bottom, just for one family. Beyond that, there are some huge health benefits to these families not being exposed to that smoke in their homes. So we end up with more forest, which pulls CO2 through photosynthesis, less carbon going into the atmosphere through those old cook fires, and the huge bonus is a health win. People not living with carcinogenic smoke. Boys, I'll also point out that 99% of the people putting their days into gathering firewood in the world are women, and often children. So this is transformational in terms of their lives. It's the kind of carbon credit I invest in, and that carbon offset investment is funded and baked into the price of every Y.Chroma product. I can be confident that we really did reduce and remove CO2 with our investment, and a lot more. Love this program. You can see details on it and other carbon offset programs we invest in, roughly divided between Latin America and Africa, on the website.